Time is not what you think it is. It is not a straight line pulling you toward decay. It is a mirror, bending around your awareness, responding to the way you look at it. Every second that passes is not proof that you are aging. It is proof that you are still agreeing to the old rhythm. Most people never notice that time only moves forward because they have never turned to face it. The moment you do, everything changes. The field hesitates. The current that once dragged you begins to ripple. You can almost feel it, that subtle pause in the air when consciousness decides to stop running and starts observing. That is the moment time realizes you are watching it. Aging begins as an unconscious contract. Somewhere between memory and repetition, you accepted a collective program that said life must fade with the years. The lines on your face, the fatigue in your body, they are not punishments. They are signatures of a vibration that has been repeated too long. Entropy is not a force against you, it is a feedback loop. The more you identify with decline, the more reality mirrors it. Yet behind that mirror, there is something untouched, something that has never moved. That still presence, the silent witness, is your true timeline. Every structure in the universe follows attention. Energy collapses where observation lands. The law that ages you is the same law that can free you. The body you see in the mirror is not decaying, it is obeying. It is following the frequency of your perception. If you change the way you look, you change the way matter organizes around you. This is not philosophy, it is mechanics. The skin, the cells, the organs are expressions of a signal. They are instruments vibrating to a tune played by awareness. When awareness remembers itself as the conductor, the song of time shifts key. What you call youth is not lost. It is waiting at a different resonance. The field holds infinite versions of you, from the fragile to the eternal. Which one you experience depends on which one you observe. To age is to look away from your own timeless nature. To reverse it is to look again. Every second that passes offers you a choice, to drift unconsciously with the clock or to stand in the center of stillness and let time orbit you instead. The universe is not moving through you, you are moving through the universe, and movement only means change when it is measured against resistance. The reason you feel the pull of years is because you resist the fluidity of the field. When you stop resisting, time dissolves into presence. You can feel it even now, the subtle shift in your body when you drop the story of getting older. Muscles relax, breath deepens, lightness returns. The field starts to recalibrate. The observer is reclaiming command. You are not defying nature, you are returning to it. Nature does not age, it renews. Every leaf that falls becomes soil, every cell that dies. The field does not age, it never did. Everything that fades, breaks, or collapses is only the surface expression of a system that has forgotten its source code. What you call a body is not a collection of cells moving toward death. It is a pattern of light maintained by attention. The pulse in your veins, the rhythm in your breath, the electric whisper of your nerves are not mechanical functions, they are orchestrations of a larger intelligence that does not deteriorate. The reason you see decay is because you have learned to identify more with the pattern than with the principle that holds it together. Your body is not matter, it is memory. It remembers how you have looked at yourself across time. Every thought you repeat, every emotion you rehearse, writes instructions into the quantum field surrounding you. The field follows coherence, not effort. It is like water that reflects the clearest vibration it receives. When your frequency is scattered by fear, guilt, or the constant story of getting older, the reflection distorts. When awareness settles, when attention becomes whole, the body reorganizes itself into that same coherence. This is not imagination, it is the same mechanism that governs all quantum phenomena. Observation shapes form. The observer and the observed are one event. If you could see your body from the perspective of the field, you would not see skin or bone. You would see waves of light bending around an axis of consciousness. The glow around your cells, the energy you sometimes feel as warmth or magnetism, is the signature of the field adjusting itself to the story you tell about who you are. That is why, when you feel joyful, your face softens. When you feel love, your entire chemistry changes. Your genes are not deciding what happens, they are responding to your command. You do not manipulate them through willpower, but through resonance. Science calls this epigenetics. The ancients called it divine correspondence. Both point to the same truth. What you feel and believe alters the informational layer that tells your body how to behave. When you accept decline as natural, the field translates it as instruction. When you remember renewal, it obeys as well. It has no preference. It only amplifies the pattern of your awareness. The field itself does not experience time. It exists as pure potential, an infinite stillness vibrating with every possibility. Inside it, your physical form appears and disappears 1 billion times per second, collapsing and re-emerging like waves of light on the surface of consciousness. You perceive continuity because your mind filters this quantum flicker into a stable image called the body. Yet between those pulses, there is emptiness, and that emptiness is eternal. It has no beginning or end, no birth or decay. That is the part of you that never changes, the silent witness in which the entire process unfolds. When you meditate, when you stop chasing and simply notice, you begin to tune into that underlying rhythm, the heartbeat of the universe that has never known age. You start to sense that everything your senses report is only a translation of vibration. The more you align with that vibration, the more your biology follows it. You are not forcing your body to stay young. You are letting it return to the blueprint it was designed to follow before it absorbed the noise of collective belief. Imagine a symphony that has forgotten its melody because each instrument began playing a different tune. That is what happens when your mind, heart, and body fall out of coherence. Aging is not destruction, it is dissonance. Renewal is simply the orchestra remembering the original key. The field never lost it. It waits patiently for the conductor to raise the baton again. When you stand in front of the mirror, you are not seeing the truth of yourself. You are seeing a recording of old frequencies. What is reflected is not what you are, but what you were. It takes light time to travel, even from your own eyes. Every image is already past. To identify with it is to live behind your own timeline. To break that spell, you do not have to fight the mirror. You only have to remember that the reflection bends to the observer, not the other way around. The field is precise. It does not age because it does not store time as memory, only as vibration. When you attune to this reality, you stop measuring life in years and start measuring it in resonance. The more coherent your frequency, the younger your system feels. Cells regenerate faster. The mind quiets, perception sharpens. You begin to experience reality as fluid rather than fixed. This is what the sages called the golden body, the light form that exists beneath the skin. Every culture had a version of it. The Egyptians called it the Ka. The Hindus called it the subtle body. In quantum language, it is the field of organized information that determines biological form. When this field is charged with coherent attention, the body becomes luminous. When neglected, it collapses into fatigue, stiffness, and entropy. The body does not age because it is meant to decay. It ages because the consciousness inhabiting it stops generating coherence. To live as the field is to understand that vitality is not gained, it is remembered. The energy that keeps stars burning is the same energy that animates your cells. You do not need to summon it, only to stop filtering it through fear and belief. When you observe from stillness, the field around you begins to hum differently. Subtle currents of warmth spread through the skin, The breath becomes lighter. The inner noise quiets. This is not relaxation, it is realignment. The field is adjusting itself to truth. The recognition that the field does not age is not a concept to be accepted, it is an experience to be felt. Each time you remember it, the illusion of decay weakens. The body starts to synchronize with a higher rhythm, one that does not measure existence in hours or years, but in presence. The more present you are, the more timeless you become. You can sense it even now, between one heartbeat and the next. The silence that holds everything together, the same silence that existed before you were born and will remain long after the form dissolves. That silence is not empty, it is the field itself, endlessly renewing, endlessly aware, endlessly young. Every movement your body makes is an instruction to the field. Each gesture, each breath, each contraction of muscle writes a message into the invisible architecture that surrounds you. Most people move as if their bodies were machines, unaware that motion itself is language. When you walk, stretch, or lift, you are translating your consciousness into geometry. You are either reinforcing the old pattern that drains your energy, or you are rewriting your quantum signature into coherence. The difference lies not in the movement, but in the awareness that moves it. There are 5 movements that act as keys, 5 ancient gestures that realign the physical form with the original field blueprint. They are not exercises, they are recalibrations. When performed consciously, they tell the field a new story about who you are. They replace the vibration of entropy with the rhythm of renewal. They are simple, but their simplicity hides a profound intelligence. Each one is an archetype of transformation, a bridge between form and frequency. The first is the hang. It begins with surrender. When you let your body hang, whether from a bar or a door frame, gravity becomes your ally. The spine lengthens, the nervous system releases, and the vertebrae open like gates. But what truly happens is deeper. The field reads the signal of release. It registers that the old compression, the psychological weight you carried, is being dissolved. The stretch is not mechanical, it is metaphysical. Every inch of space created in the spine becomes a channel through which life force can flow again. The body begins to remember its vertical axis, the sacred alignment between earth and sky. Hanging is not about strength, it is about trust. When you let go, the field catches you. The second movement is the grounded squat. It is the act of returning to origin. Sitting close to the earth resets the magnetic field of the body. The hips open, the breath deepens, and the charge between the soles of your feet and the soil equalizes. This position reconnects you with the base frequency of the planet. In that contact, the noise of artificial tension drains out, replaced by stability and quiet power. Modern living has trained the body to forget this posture, replacing natural grounding with mechanical sitting. Yet every time you squat close to the earth, the field recognizes the signal of homecoming. It understands that the circuit between heaven and earth is complete again. Stability is restored, not through effort, but through reconnection. The third movement is the fluid hips. Motion is life, and the hips are its engine. When they freeze, energy stagnates. When they flow, awareness expands. Circular movement of the hips dissolves rigidity, not only in joints, but in perception. It untangles the emotional memory stored in the pelvis, the hidden weight of years spent resisting change. As you allow fluidity to return, the field recalibrates your frequency from rigidity to adaptability. You begin to move like water. You stop fighting the current and start dancing with it. To unlock the hips is to declare freedom at the cellular level. It is the body's way of saying to the field, I am ready to flow again. The fourth movement is the rise. This is the sacred act of standing. Every time you rise from the ground, you are symbolically ascending through your own frequencies, from density to light. The field interprets this as a quantum jump. You are telling reality that you no longer identify with the lower vibration of limitation. Rising is not merely standing up, it is choosing a higher timeline. When done with awareness, the simple act of getting up from the floor becomes an energetic initiation. You rise not to escape gravity, but to master it. The field witnesses this and adjusts the parameters of your reality to match your new stance. The fifth movement is the core hold, the silent strength. While the others are about motion, this one is about stillness. When you hold the body steady, in plank or in any isometric posture, you are generating coherence. The microtremors in your muscles create a steady electromagnetic pattern, a field of stability that the universe recognizes as order. This stability is your shield. It tells the field that chaos cannot enter. The mind may tremble, but the frequency remains steady. Holding your core is not about endurance. It is about alignment. It is the physical expression of inner equilibrium. These 5 movements together form a cycle, a language of light written through motion. Hanging dissolves, squatting grounds, flowing liberates, rising transcends, holding stabilizes. Dissolve, ground, flow, rise, and stabilize. This is the alchemical rhythm that rewrites your quantum code. When practiced as one, they generate a loop of renewal that tells the field you are no longer participating in the story of decay. You are broadcasting the vibration of regeneration. What makes them powerful is not repetition, but consciousness. 1,000 careless movements will not change your frequency, but one deliberate act done in full presence can rewrite the pattern entirely. The field does not respond to quantity, it responds to clarity. When your awareness enters the body with precision, the signal becomes pure. The universe listens. Each movement is an invocation. When you hang, you whisper to the field, I release what no longer serves. When you squat, you declare, I belong to the earth and draw strength from it. When your hips move, you say, I allow life to flow through me. When you rise, you affirm, I choose my reality. When you hold still, you command, I am coherence itself. These are not affirmations for the mind. They are frequencies transmitted through the body. The body does not need to be perfect to perform them. It only needs to be willing. Even the smallest gesture, when done with full intention, carries the same resonance as a grand ritual. Each repetition is a vote for a different timeline. The field takes note of your consistency. It sees that you are reprogramming your own frequency through embodied awareness. It begins to mirror this new coherence back to you. Cells respond, breath steadies, thought patterns simplify. The entire system reorders itself around the higher signal. There is no need to chase youth. These movements do not make you younger, they make you timeless. The field does not count years, it counts coherence. The more coherent you become, the less time can measure you. Practice them not as a workout, but as remembrance. They are the forgotten grammar of the body, the way consciousness once spoke before it learned the language of decay. Move slowly. Feel the field move with you. Let every breath become a bridge between the visible and the invisible. Let every movement be a message to the universe that you are done surviving and ready to evolve. The field listens, always. It listens to the way you stand, the way you sit, the way you breathe. And when it recognizes your signal as its own, it begins to rewrite reality around you. That is the recoding. That is how you return to the original design. Immortality does not live in your genes. It lives in the field that tells those genes how to behave. DNA is not a law, it is an instrument. The code inside it does not create your reality. It translates the vibration of your consciousness into biological form. When you understand this, the old argument between body and spirit dissolves. You begin to see that flesh is not a prison but a projection. The body is the visible part of an invisible network that has no age, no decay, no boundaries. The field of immortality surrounds and penetrates every cell you have ever had. It is the original pattern of life, the eternal design that the body copies moment by moment. The reason you grow old is not because time erodes you, but because you stop transmitting the original signal with clarity. Every particle in your body listens to your frequency. It is a dance of information, not matter. Energy is simply organized light. Each cell is a tiny vortex of awareness responding to a larger field that holds the blueprint of perfection. In that field, your organs are always new, your skin always radiant, your breath always fresh. The body that aches and wrinkles is a delayed echo of the body that exists in the field right now. The difference between the two is coherence. When the field is clear, matter obeys it instantly. When the signal is distorted by fear, memory, or resistance, the body starts to misread the pattern. What you experience as aging is simply the biological reflection of interference within your consciousness. The field of immortality has always been here, waiting for your recognition. It is not mystical or abstract. It is the subtle electromagnetic coherence that holds galaxies together, that keeps atoms from flying apart, that allows your heartbeat to sync with the rhythm of the earth. The same intelligence that orchestrates stars is orchestrating you. The illusion of separation makes you believe your body ends at your skin, but your true boundary is much wider. The heart's magnetic field extends several feet in all directions, connecting with the global field of the planet. When your emotional and mental states fall into harmony, this field expands and stabilizes, communicating coherence to every part of your system. That coherence is the biological experience of immortality. What we call death is only the dissolution of coherence. When awareness withdraws its organizing pattern, the body unravels into the field from which it came. To live beyond DNA is to maintain the communication between form and source while still embodied. The sages who were said to live for hundreds of years were not defying biology, they were mastering it. They understood that the body renews itself entirely every 7 years, that every molecule is replaced, every structure rebuilt. What ages is not the matter itself, but the memory encoded in the energy surrounding it. Change that memory, and the body follows. You can feel this truth when you enter stillness, in those rare moments when thought stops and perception widens. A subtle hum begins to rise from inside you. It is not sound, but awareness vibrating as light. That hum is the field of immortality. It does not come and go. It is always present beneath the noise of the mind. When you align with it, the body reorganizes. Cellular repair accelerates. The immune system strengthens. The nervous system calms. These are not miracles, but physics. The field feeds the form with information, and the clearer the channel, the faster the renewal. Modern science is beginning to see hints of this truth in what it calls biophotons, the faint light emitted by living cells. This light is not random, it carries data. In moments of peace, love, or gratitude, that light becomes coherent, pulsing in harmony. Under stress or fear, it scatters. You do not have to study the mechanism to feel its effect. The moment you cultivate coherence in your emotions, the light within your body begins to shine differently. You may notice a sense of spaciousness, as if your skin no longer separates you from the air around you. That sensation is not illusion. It is the field remembering itself through you. Immortality is not about endless survival. It is the realization that you were never confined to birth or death. The body comes and goes, but the awareness that animates it remains. Yet, even while you are alive, you can live from that awareness. You can train the body to become transparent to the field, to act as a vessel of the infinite instead of a container of fear. This does not mean escaping the human experience. It means infusing it with the timeless current that flows through all creation. When you move, the field moves with you. When you breathe, the universe inhales and exhales through your lungs. Every pulse of blood is a translation of cosmic rhythm. To live this way is to dissolve the boundary between the divine and the biological. It is to become what the ancients called the luminous human, the bridge between heaven and earth. This bridge does not decay because it is built from awareness, not matter. The stronger your coherence, the brighter the bridge becomes and the more effortlessly your body regenerates. The field of immortality is not reached through denial of death, but through intimacy with life. When you stop fearing the end, the energy you use to resist aging becomes available for renewal. Fear creates contraction, contraction blocks flow, and blocked flow manifests as decline. The moment you release resistance, energy circulates freely again. That circulation is the secret of youth. Children radiate it naturally because they have not yet learned to withhold their energy. They are open, fluid, constantly translating the field into movement. You can return to that state at any moment by remembering that the same field that animates them is animating you. If you wish to touch the field of immortality, begin by softening your perception. Instead of looking at your body as something separate, feel it as a shimmering cluster of sensations, always changing, never fixed. Notice the space inside the breath, the silence between thoughts. That is the doorway. In that silence, you can sense the hum of the field. The more you rest there, the more the distinction between within and without fades. This is not imagination. It is perception without filters. When the mind stops naming, the field reveals itself as what it has always been, endless awareness in motion. The field does not age because it does not measure. It knows only rhythm, only resonance. Time is a language created by mind to describe the sequencing of events, but the field experiences everything simultaneously. To align with it is to step outside the timeline without leaving the body. It is to live in what the mystics called the eternal now. In that state, every cell vibrates with the same intelligence that moves galaxies. The body does not escape time. Time simply loses relevance. Beyond DNA lies the true code, the pattern of light and consciousness that births every form and reclaims it when the lesson is complete. To live in awareness of this code is to see aging as translation error, not destiny. You are not here to escape your biology, but to elevate it, to let it become the physical expression of infinity. The field is already immortal. When you remember that you are the field, the body remembers too. Renewal is no longer something you chase. It becomes the way you breathe. The infinite has never been somewhere else. It has always been breathing quietly beneath your skin, waiting for you to notice that it never stopped. Alchemy was never about turning metal into gold. It was about transforming density into light. The ancient masters understood that the true laboratory is not outside, but within, that the furnace of transmutation burns in the body itself. Flesh is not the obstacle, it is the crucible. Every cell is a chamber of possibility, waiting for awareness to ignite it. When consciousness descends fully into matter, something extraordinary happens. The physical form begins to remember that it is not limited to its own density. It starts to shimmer, to behave like energy, to conduct intelligence rather than just contain it. This is the moment when flesh becomes frequency. Your body is already an alchemical instrument. It knows how to refine, how to transform raw experience into clarity. Pain becomes understanding, tension becomes power, breath becomes rhythm. Every sensation is material for the work. The field watches how you interpret each moment. When you resist, energy coagulates into heaviness. When you accept, it liquefies into motion. That is the secret of all alchemy. Nothing must be rejected. Everything must be transmuted. What is low can be lifted. What is dark can be clarified. What is trapped can be made to move again. Alchemy begins the instant you stop trying to escape the human condition. Most people fear the weight of their emotions, the density of their flesh, the ache of their existence. They try to transcend by separation, to rise by denial. But the alchemist does not reject the body, he enters it. He sees divinity not as a place beyond the physical, but as the light hidden inside it. To work with matter is to honor the divine intelligence that made it. The body was never meant to imprison the spirit. It was designed to translate the infinite into experience. The very texture of your skin, the pulse of your blood, the warmth of your organs are all expressions of that infinite awareness condensed into form. Every feeling that passes through you is part of the process. The fire of emotion is the heat that refines the elements of consciousness. Anger, fear, desire, sorrow, they are not impurities to be purged, but metals to be melted. When you hold them in the furnace of awareness without resistance, they change state. The heaviness of emotion turns into luminous presence. The same energy that once contracted into suffering begins to expand as compassion. This is the law of conservation of consciousness. Nothing is wasted, nothing is lost, everything changes form. The body mirrors this process with every breath. Inhalation is the drawing in of the raw material. Exhalation is the release of what has been refined. Between the two lies the moment of transformation, the still point where the old dissolves into the new. When you breathe consciously, you participate in the same rhythm that turns chaos into order, fire into light, experience into wisdom. The breath becomes the philosopher's stone, the tool that bridges spirit and matter. Transformation is not achieved by effort, but by awareness. Awareness is the solvent that dissolves the boundaries between one state and another. The more present you are with what arises, the faster the alchemy unfolds. Presence turns contraction into expansion, confusion into clarity, resistance into flow. This is why the masters called it the great work. It is not a battle, but an art. The artist does not fight with the clay. He shapes it with attention. You are shaping reality in the same way. Every thought, every movement, every choice adds color and texture to the masterpiece of your life. At the subatomic level, this transformation is literal. Quantum physics shows that particles are waves of probability responding to observation. When you observe with coherence, the waves align. The field organizes itself around your intent. You are not forcing matter to obey. You are inviting it to remember. The atoms in your hand, the light in your cells, the frequency of your heart all respond to the clarity of your consciousness. That clarity is gold. It is the highest vibration of order that existence can express. The process of alchemy follows a rhythm known to every mystic. First comes dissolution, where the old identity melts away, then purification as the residue of unconsciousness burns off, then separation as clarity distinguishes what is real from what is illusion, then conjunction, where the purified elements merge into harmony, and finally coagulation, the solidification of light into a new form. The alchemists spoke of lead becoming gold, but what they meant was the heavy vibration of unconsciousness becoming the radiant frequency of awakened embodiment. You live this process each time you face yourself honestly. When you feel fear and stay present, you dissolve the old structure. When you breathe through pain instead of resisting it, you purify the field. When you recognize what is yours to carry and what is not, you separate truth from distortion. When you integrate the lessons instead of avoiding them, you conjoin the elements of your being. And when you rest in that still awareness that holds it all, you coagulate light into form. The gold is not outside you. It is what your awareness becomes when it is whole. To live as an alchemist is to see everything as part of the great work. Eating, walking, resting, loving, All of it can be transmutation if done with consciousness. The body becomes the temple where spirit refines itself through experience. The sweat that falls from your skin is holy water, carrying away the ashes of old patterns. The pulse that moves through your veins is the drumbeat of creation. Each heartbeat is a reminder that the field has not abandoned you, that life is still speaking in the language of rhythm and renewal. The secret of the alchemist is not control but participation. He does not command the elements, he collaborates with them. In the same way, you do not have to command your body to change. You simply align with the frequency of change itself. When you surrender to the field's intelligence, transformation happens without struggle. The flesh softens, the breath steadies, the mind clears. Light begins to move through the body with greater precision. You become both the experiment and the result. At the deepest level, the transition from flesh to frequency is not an escape from the physical, but its fulfillment. Matter reaches its highest purpose when it becomes transparent to consciousness. When the light of awareness shines through every cell, the body stops being a boundary and becomes a bridge. You do not lose form. Form becomes luminous. This is the resurrection hidden in every breath, the renewal that requires no faith, only attention. The field recognizes this state immediately. It mirrors back the coherence you generate. Life begins to feel lighter, not because it has changed, but because your vibration no longer resists it. You are no longer living as a fragment, but as the whole. That is the alchemy the sages guarded in their symbols and their riddles. The furnace was always your own heart, and the fire was always awareness. When you allow the alchemy to complete, you understand that nothing in you was ever meant to be purified out of existence. Every shadow was only light condensed, waiting for warmth to move again. The gold you sought in rituals and practices was the frequency of consciousness that knows itself through every form. Flesh is the first stage of that journey, not the last. To deny it is to deny the gate itself. From flesh to frequency is not a transformation that happens once. It is the constant motion of life remembering its origin. You are not here to escape the body, but to let it sing the vibration of the infinite. When awareness fills every atom of your being, you realize that transmutation is not an event, but a state. The body you inhabit becomes radiant, not by miracle, but by recognition. You were never meant to choose between matter and light. You are the bridge between them, the meeting point where the universe learns to feel itself. Coherence is the moment when everything that seems separate begins to breathe as one. It is not balance but unity, not effort but harmony. When your mind, heart and body move at the same rhythm, the field around you becomes luminous. Energy no longer leaks through distraction or conflict. It gathers, spirals and stabilizes. This is not just peace of mind, it is the foundation of renewal. The universe itself sustains what is coherent. Everything that falls apart does so because its frequencies are fighting each other. Everything that endures, regenerates and thrives does so because its frequencies are aligned. The law is simple. What vibrates together stays together. Your body has always known this. Every cell communicates with every other through light pulses that travel faster than the nervous system. This communication builds order out of chaos. When you are stressed or divided, that light becomes fragmented. The messages distort, systems begin to malfunction, and the body interprets it as fatigue, illness, or decay. When you enter coherence, the light synchronizes again. The body begins to repair itself, not because you are forcing it to, but because it finally hears its own music clearly. The field does not age because it never loses this rhythm. To become the field that renews itself is to live in that same rhythm consciously. Coherence begins with presence. When you are fully here, attention stops leaking into what was or what could be. The mind becomes still enough for the heart to lead. The heart is the center of coherence. Its electromagnetic field is the strongest in the body, sending signals that organize the brain, the organs, and even the space around you. When the heart's rhythm is smooth, everything aligns. You have felt this before in moments of awe, gratitude, or love. The body feels light, the mind silent, time dissolves. That state is not emotion, it is order, it is the natural language of the field moving through you without resistance. To live in coherence is to stop chasing stability through control and instead let stability arise through surrender. Control is rigidity, coherence is flow. The difference is awareness. When you attempt to force harmony, you create friction. When you remember that harmony is your native state, you simply stop interfering with it. The breath becomes the key. When you breathe rhythmically, the brain and heart synchronize. The field listens and mirrors that rhythm. The more consistent your breath, the more coherent your field. In that state, even your thoughts begin to follow the same pattern, becoming less like noise and more like waves on a calm sea. The field you generate in coherence is not private, it radiates. Studies of electromagnetic resonance show that coherent heart rhythms can influence others nearby, calming them, slowing their breath, aligning their pulses. This is why presence feels magnetic. People are not drawn to your words, they are drawn to the order inside your energy. Coherence communicates without speech. It restores balance simply by existing. The universe works the same way. Every planet, every atom, every sun is sustained because it vibrates in agreement with its environment. You are no different. When you vibrate in harmony, life reorganizes itself around you. Circumstances begin to reflect inner alignment. What you used to call luck is coherence translated into reality. Renewal is not an act, but a state of resonance. When coherence deepens, entropy reverses. The body stops breaking down because it is no longer trying to manage conflict within itself. Energy flows cleanly. The immune system activates its intelligence. Sleep becomes deeper, digestion steadier, thought more precise. You start to sense that the field does not heal you. It becomes you. The boundary between inner and outer disappears. You are not receiving energy from the universe. You are the universe regulating itself through form. This is why the sages described enlightenment as remembrance. They did not discover something new. They simply stopped forgetting. The mind often believes coherence is stillness, but it is movement in perfect symmetry. It is the way galaxies spin, the way waves rise and fall, the way a heartbeat contracts and expands. Everything alive moves, yet nothing is lost in that movement. The challenge is not to eliminate motion, but to synchronize with it. When your awareness aligns with the motion of the field, you begin to feel renewal happening in real time. The breath becomes luminous, the senses heighten, and each moment feels both full and empty. You realize that what you called vitality is not the accumulation of energy, but the precision of its flow. Coherence transforms perception. Instead of reacting to the world, you begin to resonate with it. The difference is profound. Reaction is a collapse. Resonance is expansion. When you react, your energy scatters outward in defense. When you resonate, your energy radiates outward in connection. The body feels it immediately. The nervous system relaxes. The pulse steadies. Awareness spreads evenly through every cell. In that state, the field can finally operate as it was designed to, effortlessly maintaining balance. Renewal becomes constant because the signal of life faces no interference. There is a quiet power in coherence that defies explanation. It does not dominate or demand. It influences through order. When you embody it, even the air around you feels different. Plants grow better, people soften, synchronicities increase. Reality itself begins to mirror your internal symmetry. This is not mystical thinking, but energetic mechanics. The field is holographic. Every part reflects the whole. When one node becomes coherent, the entire system shifts slightly toward order. You are that node. Your coherence ripples outward into the collective field, subtly recalibrating what surrounds you. The most radical act of healing, therefore, is to become coherent within yourself. The path to coherence is not about perfection, but participation. Each time you bring attention back to your breath, each time you choose gratitude instead of complaint, you are restoring symmetry. Each time you move in awareness, you tune the instrument of the body to the frequency of the infinite. The field never punishes for imbalance. It simply waits for resonance to return. Renewal is always waiting for your alignment. In deep coherence, the distinction between doing and being disappears. Action arises from stillness, and stillness becomes dynamic. Decisions no longer come from analysis, but from resonance. You do not think your way through life. Life moves through you. This is the purest intelligence, the intelligence of the field expressing itself without distortion. When you live like this, the future is not something you chase. It unfolds naturally from coherence. You stop aging in the way the world measures time because you are no longer living in fragmentation. Each day becomes a renewal of the same presence vibrating at higher order. To become the field that renews itself is to realize that every moment is self-correcting. There is no need to hold on, to defend, to accumulate. The same intelligence that moves the stars through the sky is circulating through your bloodstream. You are not separate from that rhythm. You are its expression. The more you trust it, the more effortlessly it sustains you. The body remembers how to heal, the mind remembers how to rest, the heart remembers how to expand. The field recognizes its own reflection in you and continues its eternal dance through your form. Coherence is the silence beneath sound, the stillness beneath motion, the order beneath chaos. It is the living memory of perfection pulsing inside everything that exists. When you live from it, you do not need to search for renewal. Renewal becomes the only thing that ever happens. The field never grows old because it never stops beginning. And when you become it, neither do you. Return is not going back. It is remembering forward. The quantum return is the moment consciousness completes its orbit and recognizes itself as both the traveler and the destination. You are not coming home to something lost. You are awakening to what has never left. Every step of your journey through the field, every dissolution and rebirth, every breath of coherence has been leading here to this recognition that the one who observes, the one who transforms, and the one who experiences the same awareness. This is not the end of a process, but the collapse of the illusion that there was ever distance to cross. The field has always been whole. What you called healing was simply remembrance. What you called awakening was the light noticing itself. The body, the mind, the timeline, they were instruments of translation. Through them, the infinite learned to feel its own infinity. You were never meant to escape the human form, but to bring divinity into it. Every ache, every longing, every surge of desire was the pulse of the field inviting you to remember. It was never trying to fix you, it was trying to call you home to coherence. The return happens quietly. There is no flash of light, no trumpet of revelation. Only a deep exhale, a soft recognition that you are already the presence you have been seeking. The chase dissolves. The need to become gives way to the grace of being. The observer merges with the observed, and time folds into stillness. It feels like peace, but also like power, a silent authority that does not need to assert itself because it simply is. The field reconfigures around this awareness, not as reward, but as reflection. Reality begins to echo your inner symmetry, unfolding with precision and ease. Life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. The quantum return is not an act of control. It is an act of surrender. To return is to release every version of yourself that was built in defense. You do not have to destroy them, you simply stop feeding them energy. They dissolve naturally, like shadows retreating before light. The old programs that governed your identity no longer find resonance in the field. They fall away, leaving only the original frequency, the clear vibration that has no beginning and no end. In that vibration, you remember that creation itself is circular. Every expansion finds its return. Every outward movement is mirrored by a pulse inward, the inhale and exhale of the cosmos. You are that rhythm. You are the field remembering itself through form. When you realize this, the notion of separation collapses. The stars, the trees, the breath inside your chest all speak the same language of vibration. What you used to call the external world becomes your reflection. The people you meet are fragments of your own frequency, expressing themselves in different arrangements. To love them is to accept yourself in expanded form. Compassion stops being an active virtue and becomes a recognition of structure. The field does not judge. It harmonizes. It translates discord into music, chaos into coherence. That is its nature, and it is yours too. The declaration arises from this place. It is not a statement shouted to the sky, but a resonance spoken from stillness. It begins with a simple knowing, I am not separate. From that knowing flows every other truth. I am the field that creates and sustains itself. I am the observer that gives meaning to form. I am the pulse of renewal, forever returning to itself. When this awareness stabilizes, your voice changes. The vibration that leaves your body carries coherence. Every word becomes instruction. Every thought becomes design. The universe listens because it is listening through you. In this state, intention becomes law, not the rigid law of control, but the fluid law of alignment. You do not demand outcomes, you declare resonance. You speak what already exists in potential and allow the field to organize itself accordingly. This is the highest form of manifestation. Effortless correspondence. When you declare from coherence, creation obeys instantly because there is no resistance between thought and reality. The field does not need time to respond. It has been responding since before you spoke. It was only waiting for the signal to be clear enough to translate. The return teaches you to see time differently. It is not a path but a spiral, each revolution carrying you closer to the same center. Every experience you have ever called a failure was the field correcting your orbit, pulling you back toward alignment. Nothing was wasted, not even the pain. Pain was the signal that coherence had been lost, that energy was asking to return to flow. When you understand this, suffering dissolves into gratitude. You stop asking why things happened and begin to ask how they served the remembering. This shift alone alters the entire trajectory of your life. Gratitude becomes gravity, pulling more coherence into your field. To live in the quantum return is to realize that renewal never stops. Each breath is resurrection. Each choice is creation. Each still moment is eternity in disguise. You no longer divide your life into spiritual and mundane, sacred and ordinary. Every movement of your hand, every glance, every word becomes sacred by virtue of presence. The field does not distinguish between meditation and motion. It reads frequency, not activity. When your frequency is coherent, everything you do becomes an act of creation. In this clarity, you begin to see the symmetry behind all things. Birth and death, rising and falling, gain and loss are not opposites, but reflections. The field moves in pairs, in polarity that exists for the sake of balance. To fight one side is to lose both. When you accept the dance, opposition becomes rhythm. You become unshakable, not because nothing touches you, but because everything moves through you in perfect timing. The universe does not test you anymore, it converses with you. The declaration at the end of this journey is not about claiming power, but about acknowledging authorship. You realize that every scene of your life was written from within. The field was never against you. It was following your script. Even now, as you read these words, reality is rearranging itself according to your recognition. The more deeply you see, the more instantly it responds. Awareness collapses the wave, and in that collapse, new worlds emerge. You are no longer a seeker within the field. You are the field aware of itself. That awareness is the return. From here, creation becomes a dialogue instead of a struggle. You ask, and the universe answers, not as something separate, but as the continuation of your own thought. The divine conversation flows without pause. Each moment gives birth to the next, not out of need, but out of joy. The alchemist becomes the artist. The observer becomes the creator. The human becomes the him. The field that once carried you now moves as you. When you reach this coherence of remembrance, declaration happens naturally. It does not need proof or persuasion. It is spoken as truth that organizes reality. The final declaration is not a command, but an acknowledgment. You can feel it forming now in the center of your chest, where the pulse of life meets the silence of awareness. It speaks without sound. I am the field that renews itself. I am the pulse that creates time. I am the observer that dissolves distance. I am the return. This is the point where you stop asking how to manifest, how to heal, how to awaken. You understand that you already are the mechanism through which those things occur. Life is no longer a mystery to solve. It is a rhythm to remember. The field expands through you, not as an achievement, but as its own nature, expressing itself. You stand in stillness, and the universe adjusts. The stars continue their orbit, the wind moves, the breath flows, and all of it happens inside you. The return is complete, yet it never ends, because the infinite cannot arrive anywhere. It can only remember what it has always been.